Today's active recovery is a 15-minute morning mobility routine. If there's nothing else you do in the day, do this. If you want to loosen up your spine, loosen up your hips, feel fresh throughout the rest of the day, then it's important that you get moving early in the day. So there's a couple things that you can do to help wake yourself up, but this is not just for waking up. This can be something midday break to get some movement in if you've been sitting for a while. But the goal here is, as I said, loosen up the hips, loosen up the spine, get a little bit of shoulder, ankle work, neck work, so that your body is ready for the day. Let's get started here. So hands and knees to start here. We're gonna go to some flexions and extensions, or cat-cows. What I'm gonna do here is work on end ranges. So you'll see that this routine is fairly similar to the general prep we do for our workouts. However, I wanna focus on lengthening, rotating, finding those end ranges. So tailbone all the way up, head all the way up, chin all the way down. Again, tuck that tailbone down. Next part, butt comes down onto the heels, arms overhead. I want to work on lengthening through the lats. I'm going to get a little bit of a child's pose rock here, so moving left and right, feel that stretch through the shoulders. I'm keeping the butt down onto the heels, working it down towards the heels, and simultaneously I'm inching my fingers forward. So I've got my fingertips on the ground, inching them forwards. In through the nose, out through the nose. Or in through the nose and out through the mouth. Another 2, 1, and I'm going to come forward into an extended position here. I want to point the toes, fingers are pointed out. I want to rotate the hips down one side, look over the opposite shoulder. Rotate the hips the other side, opposite shoulder. One more sequence here, looking over. Looking over. Come back to the tabletop, hands into the shoulders. I want to bring my knees a little closer together. I'm going to drop my hips down from one side to the other. And in these lengthening sections here, we're segmenting the spine, finding different sections that each get a little more tension. So you get a crack in one, not necessarily in the other. We want to work all the way up and down. 2, 1. Good. Hands down the ground. T-spine rotations. Push the hand into the ground as you rotate. So don't just lift the arm up. Think about pushing the hand into the ground. Create a little bit more rotation. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, lying on your side. Want to get top knee over, lower leg as straight as possible. You can take the opposite arm from the knee that's down, pin it down. I want to start with my top arm, thumb at the knee, and then I'm going to rotate, thumb comes overhead. Thumb to the knee, thumb overhead. So I'm lengthening. Spend a bit of time here because we want to find this position. Takes a couple rotations before your spine starts to relax, back starts to loosen up. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Continue to try and lengthen the straight leg. Keep your knee up high. 90-degree angle here. And I'm rotating the shoulder. That's why the thumb comes down to the knee and then thumb overhead. Another 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, on to the other side. Top leg, pin down on the opposite hand, lower the lengthen the lower leg, and then rotate. First couple, just get the movement down. Not gonna have the same range of motion as you did on the other side just yet. Get your breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, pin the knee down. Okay, now let's work on our position. Lengthen that lower leg, reach as high as you can overhead. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, Roll onto your back, tuck your knees in the chest, get a gentle roll, and then back up onto your butt into some wipers. Let's work on this position and symmetry. So the first couple, it's okay if your chest, see how my chin and chest is moving with the legs. Okay, shins come down and lift off at the same time. My arms behind me, pushing into the ground. Shoulders are back and away from the ears. So don't allow yourself to be passive here, active through the shoulders. Now I'm gonna keep my spine more neutral here. I'm gonna keep the belly button, chin facing forwards as I begin to do the wipers. It's gonna create more tension in through the hips. Generally, when I watch people do this, this is what is done incorrectly. That torso is moving, missing the goal here. The objective is to create tension in through the hips, not just move the legs back and forth, but create tension in through the hips. Stay active with those shoulders. Another 4, 3, 2, and 1. Get into a 90-90 or figures 4. Gonna reach, palm comes up, exhale, come up, back leg sweeps forwards, hinge, and then alternate sides. Figure 4, 90-90, reach, palm up, inhale back to the top, hinge, exhale. Inhale, exhale. One more sequence here. And frog. So if you find this hurts your knees, you don't have a mat, don't go as wide as possible. Even stay it's almost like a modified tabletop here, but if you can, get those knees out a little bit wider, sink the hips down. And as we're doing this, we're thinking about a good squat position. So I'm keeping my spine straight all the way from the hips up to the head. Okay, keeping it straight as I move the hips down. Because what I'm also doing here is I'm rotating the hips. So as I get a little bit lower into this position, you're gonna feel this stretch in through the hips. And we're thinking about your hip socket and the femur, the upper leg bone, rotating through the femur or rotating through that socket. And if you're keeping your back straight, not only are we mimicking squat position, which is a good way to groove that pattern, but we're also creating more tension in through the hips, create a little bit more space. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And then we're gonna be in internal rotation, sink back, rotate forwards. And if you wanna be that weird person like me, do this in the airport before you board a flight. Just be that person. The people judging you probably don't care judging you anyway. 4, 3, 2, 1. And then we get one leg out, hinge back and forth. Scrub in through the hips, sink into the hamstring. 3, 2, 1, and switch sides. Still continue those deep breaths. It's understandable if you're in a public place, maybe not going to be as audible with the breaths, but still in through the nose, out through the mouth. But then again, like me, you might just not care. 3, 2, 1, and good. Shake those hips out. Lizard position. So we get one foot forward, one knee back. Create some space in here. So now we've basically primed, and there's a few ways to look at this morning mobility routine. So first, to understand, so as I draw these circles here, is that your hips and spine are gonna be tight. Everything's gonna be tight, but those are the things that are most critical, especially when you wake up. Hips and spine are going to be tight. So we want to address those first, slowly, and then get deeper into them. Switch directions in the circle so you haven't done so. The second thing is, as we begin the day, we're essentially preparing for sitting. So what we're doing here is preparing for sitting. You can move all the muscles, move through the range of motion, the joints where sitting is now turning them off. You're not using them, they're tightening up. Okay, then at least we've better prepared yourself for sitting. And the third one is for movement. If you are going to work out, if you are going for a run, preparing these joints for movement means that those first few steps are going to be cleaner. And when I say cleaner, they're not going to be as rusty. When you go out, if you go for a run, and of course you've done a full warm-up in advance, but this morning mobility routine, okay, back and forth, loosen up the hamstring, helps shake off some of the rust, especially the first couple hundred meters as you run, help prevent injury. So you wake up, prep the spine and hips from being dormant all night, help prevent a full day of sitting, turning everything off and not being used. Let's get that inside arm down to the ground and then rotate up. And then third, for movement, if you are going to work out, better prepare you for that. Keep that knee over top, pinky toe. 3, 2, and 1. Now, of course, you can switch sides here. Abbreviate this. So this is a 15-minute routine, but if you've only got 5, maybe 10, okay, you can cherry pick your favorites. I would generally, though, go in this order. So if you are just going to pick a few of these, okay, again, with the circles, notice it's hard to see, but my knee is well over top of the pinky toe, so I can adjust my back foot as much as I need to, keep that knee over top of the pinky toe, and I've maintained the arch in my foot. But follow that order. So if you are going to abbreviate 5 minutes, don't start with the movements at the end and then go to the top, because it is designed to help slowly get after the joints that are going to be limiting your movement, especially when you wake up. Switch directions if you haven't already, and then inside arm down to the ground, rotate up. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. And good. All right, standing up. Going into a bit of a squat routine now. So down into the squat, come back up. Find your position in that squat, your width, your angle of your feet. Okay, and then work on the knees coming out over top, pinky toes. Okay, after a couple squats, you should have it. We're gonna sit down now into the passive squat. Prime the ankles. This is where we go after the ankles now. One of the main contributors for those of you that still aren't able to get down into this low squat, that, and then hips. Okay, you will, though, just because you feel it in the hips doesn't mean the hips is the problem. It's the symptom. And if your ankles can't move, then your hips have to pick up more of the slack. By loosening up the ankles, you can allow those knees to travel over top of the toes a little bit more, which allows you to stay in this low position more comfortably. All right, sink down. If you need to hold on to something here, but I want to pry the knees open. So palm, fist comes into palm, pull in, and then rotate. You can put a hand down on the ground if you need support as well. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hang out in that passive squat. Again, great way to help prepare for sitting. And although, we don't like to think of our morning routine as preparing for sitting, but let's face it, this is probably a standard day for most of you. If you do have a full day of movement planned, it's not that this isn't important to do and it isn't beneficial, it's just more useful for those of you who are sitting all day. 2, 1, stand up, shaking it out. Okay, so let's now go into a Jefferson curl. Think chin tucked. I've got my toes slightly toed in or pointed in. I'm rounding the spine slowly. Arms reach out in front. Come back up. Arms out. Rotate. Back and forth. And then back down. Our final movement. Walk yourself out into that tall plank position. Go down into a push-up. Extend, reach, tap one toe, push up, reach, tap the other toe, tall plank, and up. Good, that's it. You're fresh now, ready for the day. So again, if you're gonna break this down into 5, 10, or 15 minutes, start from the bottom, do some of those basic hip movements. You can also watch this in a faster rate. So if you watch this at 2x speed, then this essentially becomes a 7.5 minute workout. But the idea here, get the hips, the spine, and then gently loosen everything else up so that you can have a better day. See you in the next one.